Welcome to the Coffee with Cheryl podcast, a podcast for women over 50 who want to live their best life right now. I am your host, Cheryl Garrison. I am a publisher, an author, a coach, passionate about everything that has to do with women over 50. I am the founder and CEO of 50 Something Lifestyle, which is a resource to help women thrive during this time of their life. This is our third season, and I'm so excited to have as my first guest of the season, Michelle Sumrall, who you will meet in just a few minutes. This podcast is about living your best life while you are thriving and going through whatever you're going through in life, but coming out of it on the other side successful. And that's exactly what Michelle has done. I want to hope you have your coffee with you and ready to just enjoy this wonderful Monday morning. And let's just talk a little bit about how Michelle has thrived in the midst of some things that you will see, like how did she get through this? Anyway, let's start with our quote like we always do. And I like to read our quote so that I don't. So our quote today is life itself is a privilege, but to live it to its fullest is a choice. We
Mhm.
have a choice. It's a privilege, but we have a choice to live it to our fullest. And Michelle, welcome to Coffee with Cheryl. I'd love to introduce you to Michelle. She is a coach. She is a life coach of Total Life Coaching, TLC. She is an author of three books, and we'll talk about her three books later in the podcast. She is a mother of Alicia, who I have had the privilege of working with and meeting, and is a very amazing teenage young lady. And I don't know how she does it all. She works full time and she does her business. Michelle, introduce yourself to the ladies today and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm so glad to be back with you. So I'm Michelle Sumrall, an author and a life coach. I started TLC a couple of years ago, and this is my year to really kick that business up into high gear and to make it ready for me to thrive after at some point after retirement.
Mhm.
I have wanted to write since I was about 7 years old. And, I would scrabble things down, jot things down, journal a lot over the years.
Mhm.
But not until starting to go through the journey with my parents a few years back did it come to fruition, right? And I don't know if it was out of just necessity for me to get things out of me, or if it was just some little voice telling me that I needed to make this book out of these things that I've
Yeah.
jotted down. So I've done that, and it all kind of came together. So that book sparked the need to help others. And the need to help others sparked the coaching, the coaching aspect of it. So it all really kind of blends together for me. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to what's coming to me next. I say I hear voices, things speak to me, characters come to me, and I write about them, and I love that part. I enjoy that immensely. I don't hold any punches, so I tell it
Mhm.
like it is, and I think that resonates with readers and with people.
Right.
Um, it's not some sugar coated books. So
I've had the privilege of publishing three of your three
yeah.
books. That's how I met Michelle. She approached me to help her with Scattered, her first book. And it's true. She tells it the way she sees it, and you just have to get out of the way if your toes get stepped on. But she tells the truth, and that's what's the great thing about all of your books. It's true and it's straight from the heart. Just a little bit about how you got here. Um, your parents, both of your parents, well, one had dementia and the other Alzheimer's, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit of how that experience. of caregiving, being pretty much the sole caregiver of
Mhm.
both of your parents. Many of us, when we have an ailing parent, it's really just one parent and that we're dealing with. Tell
Right.
us how did you uh, get through taking care of both of your parents at a time you're raising a daughter and a full-time, not just job, but career, where you're in
Correct.
charge of, in a major corporation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes myself about how I've made it all happen. And I do believe that was a stormy season for me. That was kind of
Mhm.
going through the storm. But I had no choice really but to be able to do it all. There were some long, long days. There was a lot of tired exhaustion, depression, all the whole gamut of emotions that you feel. But things just have to be done, right? I like to think of doing things in an orderly fashion, and sometimes that was the case, but a lot of times it was just you just catch it as it comes and do things as they come your way. Um, with writing Scattered, that the first book that you mentioned, it was I was jotting down things that were just odd, and I'm like, wow, that seems strange. And so I'd write it down so I could kind of remember to revisit, research, learn
Uh-huh.
something about it. And eventually I had a book's worth of those things, right? So and it was also things that like, we don't like to talk about, particularly in the African American community.
Mhm.
We keep these things swept behind the door. We don't want to share them. We don't want anybody to know what we're going through. But
Right, right,
that's how we lose generational wealth. That's how we have conflict in the family that never gets resolved, and then
right.
there's regret with that. Um, so my book kind of speaks to all of that. But as a result of that, I did learn a lot of things that we can do ahead of time to not have to knock down those walls, right? Here's kind of the blueprint
Yeah,
for that. So yeah, that was that one, and then that just kind of fed into my passion for the other two books that I've written as well. So I write what is what I'm passionate about.
right.
So if there's something going on in the news, and you mentioned my daughter, there were a few instances that she would tell me about, some kid at school that had been bullied, picked on, and ultimately committed suicide. And
Right.
there's, I think, the last one, there was an attempt. So those things are, I feel so passionately and deeply about that. Like there's tomorrow, right? Even in my storm, there's tomorrow. Just
Right,
keep
right.
going. There's tomorrow.
Right,
There's that spiritual piece for me. But with that second book, that idea came from some things that were going on in reality. So I started just kind of writing around with that one. And, my lovely daughter told me that that you sounds like a 50-year-old something woman writing this book. You need to youth it up a little bit. So I asked her to help me, and so she co-wrote the book
that's
with me.
great. And,
There were
and the
some
name
things
of
that
that,
yes,
yeah.
I'm
And I
sorry.
was just going to let the audience know the name of that book is The Bully and the Bystander, which is
Correct.
truly what happens in most of those relationships where someone is being bullied. There's someone who is standing by, being
Watching.
watching this happen and
Hmm.
really not knowing how to navigate through that. How do they help their
Right.
friend that's being bullied? So there's generally three people involved when someone is being bullied,
Hmm.
three or more. And you
Right.
captured that very well in your book, and we had fun. Both of the 50-some-year-old women trying to use
Yeah.
it up.
Yes, that was hilarious. That was a fun process
Yeah.
over a very serious topic. But yes, there are three people, and then what we have to realize, and you and I probably, well, I'm sure we didn't experience it when there was bullying when I was a child. It stopped at the school end of the school day. You went
Right,
home
right.
and you have to deal with it. These kids with social media, it
Oh,
follows
yeah,
them
yeah,
everywhere. So
yeah.
you like never really shake that impact of it. And then there are family issues as well. Excuse me, that add into how a person feels, how these children are, what they're having to deal with, and how they're not able to get through because they don't see the options. So again, the message in that is just kind of keep going, keep pushing
Right,
forward. Take a rest, keep pushing forward. So resilience is what they're missing.
right. And you capture that very well in the characters in the book, how the main character resolves his own
Mhm.
personal battles. Because mostly when we come into this world and we have relationship issues as we're growing up, there's someone who sort of takes advantage of that, and they know
Right.
we're vulnerable. And so you captured how, if you are in that state or you have someone you're caring for that's in that state, I recommend that you get the bully and the bystander, especially if you have
Thank you.
teenage grandchildren or children, to let them read it and to just understand what kids are going through. Alicia definitely helped with her
Hmm.
perspective in terms of the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you're a certified life coach, right?
Yes.
And I know in your profession you work in human resources. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes.
Now, did you become a life coach after your experience with your parents, uh, or during, or what led you to want to do that? To actually
So
become certified and say, okay, I'm going to put together a platform that'll really help people.
right. So as I'm in this 50 something, I'm pushing the boundaries of 50 this year. So, but as I'm in the 50 something lifestyle, I start to think about what am I going to
Mhm.
do after this? What I was going through with my parents and the caregiving for them was a catalyst for really giving some thought to my life after the corporate world. I have some years left, so not running out right away, but
Mhm.
I felt like I have the time now to get that in motion, right? To establish the business. And thank you for working with me on how understanding how to set it all up
Mhm.
and how to get it kicked off. So now was kind of the perfect time. The books that I've written thus far are really foundational
Right.
to the life coaching business, right? They touch on aspects, and it's total life coaching. So they touch on aspects of wherever you might be in life. If you're a caregiver, if you're someone who's trying to make some career changes, and even for teens, I talk to so many of my daughter's friends, they just kind of have an open ear with me. So, but really, wherever you may be in that lifespan, is kind of the point of it. I don't know. I may have another one another book that comes out of me that really,
Mhm.
really meshes with that life coaching world. But I'm also excited about writing some just fiction.
Just
It will probably have a message, but just fiction.
it's
So.
just to help, yes. And how it's just so, as a writer myself, and having done fiction and nonfiction,
Mhm.
it's just one of those things that if you're able to take that story, and generally our stories come from life experiences, even though they're fiction,
Mhm.
we wrap them with things that are happening in our own lives. It's therapeutic to
It
write.
is.
It's That's where I get all my therapy, from my own writing. As an author, and those women out there who are aspiring to do it, having written 3 books. And her third book, by the way, is the 90-Day Unjournal. For you ladies out there who like to journal, this is a different approach to journaling. It's called Getting Off the Page and Into Action. It's really about taking those daily things that we talk about we want to do, and we write about. This apps actually helps you put them in action and get
Mhm.
things done. But as an author and as a person who works and that's trying to run a business and raising a child, um, for those aspiring authors out there, how do you get the time to actually complete books and
Mhm.
get them from the manuscript to the published product.
Right. Um, yeah, so I try to make it a point to schedule my day so that there is some writing time in the day, whether that be early morning, late evening, right before I go to bed. So I have a habit, I'll get my shower as early as I can, and I'll hop in the bed and I'll either read or watch TV or some foolishness. I don't know, play a video, play a
Mhm.
game on my phone.
Yeah.
So I've when I'm writing, when I'm focused on a project, I cut that out. That is
Uh-huh.
writing time. And so
Okay.
I will, yeah, so I'll make that my writing time, as well as like in the morning, to get it done.
Right.
And then, of course, it goes through this whole process of the back and forth, right? So,
Right. Right.
but I just dedicate time to it. It's something that I really want. And if you really want to do something, you have to dedicate the time to it.
Right.
That time that I spend writing, whether it be in the evening when I'm winding down or in the morning, is probably the time that I'm most self-reflective. Um, and it purges, it just really is cathartic, it makes me feel better. So
Uh-huh.
and I'm getting something done. I'm
Right.
actually accomplishing a goal.
Yeah.
um
Well, I can attest to when I give you a project or a timeline, no matter how big the time, how short the
mhm,
timeline was or how big the task, you always came back with it done. And it was remarkable to me because I do that with some of my other authors, and months would go by before we get to that point of getting to that next step. But you were always motivated. If you had a goal to get something done, I really appreciated that. As we talk about this season of thriving as women over 50, um, what advice can you give to that woman who's run into maybe a health issue or a financial issue or something, a relationship, something in their life that they just feel like, why? There's
mhm,
no reason to continue to do this. It's,
right.
I'm getting nowhere. Uh, and they've just really lost the hope to thrive. And I know you're a woman of faith too. You can bring that into
Yes.
the equation as well. But what advice can you give them to help them just sort of get over that initial hurdle and start
Mhm.
making that first step toward moving towards something that will make their life more fulfilled?
Right. So, and you mentioned faith, and that is absolutely what gets me through. So I've been knocked down. There have been storms. There are storms right now in my life, right? Some large, some small. Um, but I have a vision. Like I know that, and through God, I know that on the other side of that storm, there's brightness, there's sunshine. You just have to get to it. So there may be some things that you have to knock out of your way, some things that have to
Mhm,
drop off your plate. You may have to move something from one spot to another so that you can get to that light, so you can get to that sunshine.
mhm.
I get a little tickled when I hear the word resilience and think about the word resilience. Yes, I'm resilient. Um, you don't always want to be though.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you want to just let whatever that weight is just overcome you. It's like it's just too much. I'm done, right? But I'm
yeah.
not done. There's so much more for me, right? God's promises are so much greater for me than I can ever even imagine. And if I will just not let that storm, I say little storm, take me over, right? Sometimes you just go to
Mhm.
bed, just
Yeah,
lay down, let it blow over, right? And just get back
right.
up the next day and keep pushing. And that's something my mother always told me. Keep living
Yeah,
her two words, just keep living.
keep living
But while you're
like that.
living, while you're living, do some of the action steps to help to help you achieve your
Right,
goal. And that's what I wrote about in the 90-day unjournal, getting off the
right.
page and into action. We can set our mind on, hey, I want to be an author. Okay, well, I can't be an author if I don't write.
Right.
So
It's true. That's
that's
so
like
true.
first step, right? Um, so there are steps that we can actually use the journal to jot down. And throughout the journal, there are thought-provoking questions that make you like if you're going through a disruption, there's an obstacle in your way. Okay, well, how can we move that? How can we get
Mhm.
around that? How can we
Right.
go through it?
Mhm.
What do we need to do with this obstacle? Um, and the obstacle can be a thing, it can be a person, it can be, whatever. But there are ways around it. So,
Right.
yeah, so the book kind of talks through that. And that's how I've accomplished what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are you at the point in your business where you are taking in clients, or are you still at the point of just putting the infrastructure together? Where are you in terms of TLC?
Yes. So still working on putting the infrastructure together. However, I am taking clients. I have um, the bulk of people that reach out to me are in the sandwich generation. They're living through their scattered space.
Okay,
So
okay.
I do get quite a bit of interaction because
Hmm.
of that book. It's not only a guide to getting through that piece of life, but there's also some comfort in knowing that someone else has been through that. And so I get a lot of that interaction.
That's good. And in terms of people who are caring for someone who I now have a very dear friend, her husband
Mm,
has Alzheimer's and it's
wow.
progressing, pretty quickly. Um, how how can she find relief from her a self from her own to keep her together? Because most
Hmm.
of the time we're so busy caregiving that we put ourselves secondly. How did you keep yourself from falling within that trap of
Yeah.
just letting everything go and focusing on the task at hand? How did you care
Hmm.
for you? And how can a
Yeah.
person like her care for herself?
Right. I had to give myself
Hmm. I like that.
permission to take care of me. S- Sounds a little strange, right? Because we should just take care of ourselves, but you get so caught up in caring for your loved one, and you know that you're that person. You're the only one that they have that's going to do it. You feel
Mhm.
guilty when you need to step away and have a glass of water or sit down for a minute, right? You feel guilty. So I literally had to give myself permission. It's okay. It's going to be okay. You need to eat. You need to get a little sunshine. You need to do that. So it's okay to give yourself permission to step away. There are agencies or people that can step in to help give you a little bit of respite time. But if you're not well, you can't help someone else be better or be well, right? You have to kind of heal yourself
Yeah,
before
yeah,
you can help somebody else. So.
that's a good. How do people get in touch with you who would like to really talk a little bit more about some of the things that are going on and get learn more about what TLC does?
Yes, so I'm on all social media platforms. My website, michellesumrall.com, there's no space in there. There is an option to reach out to me there as well. Um,
Okay.
the social media platforms.
You work by
You,
consultation first.
I do,
They get
yes,
scheduled. Okay.
yes.
Ladies, if you are, I mean, you're obviously just listening to Michelle right now, you can imagine how easy she is to speak with and how much she has been through and how much knowledge she has to be able to help you if you are going through some storms right now. And I encourage you to reach out to her at Michelle Sumrall. That's Michellesumrall.com. We will put it in the comments as well so that you can reach out to her and just schedule some time to talk to her. Uh, this is the season of thriving. We can't thrive. Many of us can't thrive alone. I
Mhm.
know I can't. This year has been some stuff. And
Mm,
all of you know that going through breast cancer. and coming out a survivor, but that wasn't done on my own. It's done with a lot of help. So if you are looking for someone to help you through your storm, or if you've been through the storm and you just really want to know where do I go next, connect with Michelle. Um, again, tell us your three books.
The 90-Day Unjournal, Getting Off the
Mhm.
Page and Into Action, The Bullied, The Bully, and the Bystander. It was co-written with my daughter, Alicia Sumrall, and Scattered, A Caregiver's Journey Through Alzheimer's Disease and Dementia.
And those are all available on Amazon
All available
and
on
through your
Amazon or on
website.
my website.
Okay,
Yes.
good. That's good to know. Well, if you were going to give any final words or any final tip to ladies today, especially in today's environment, just as those last parting words, do you have some things to leave us with before we close the
Sure.
podcast?
Sure. As my mother always said, keep living. And I will say, give yourself permission. It's okay.
I like that. I like both of those. Those are two things I learned today that I'm going to add to my little arsenal of things that help me to get through my days, to keep living and give myself permission. Thank you, Michelle, for
Thank you so
being with
much.
us. I enjoyed this time. And again,
Thank you.
for those of you who want to reach Michelle, michellesumrall.com, Total Life Coaching LLC. Her books are available on Amazon. Support Michelle and let's help her get her business thriving
Yeah.
in 2025. And thank you
Thank you.
again, Michelle, for joining us today on the Coffee with Cheryl podcast. Remember, you don't have to live your best life today. You don't have to live your best life 3 years from now, but you can live it. I messed that all up, but you can live your best life today. Don't wait till tomorrow or 3 years. Live it right now because this is the time for us to live our best life as women over 50. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time on Coffee with Cheryl. Thank you.
Thank you.